I say cancer saved my life. I 100% believe that. When my mom got diagnosed, and you know this because of your husband, Mike, like it was the worst time of my life. Losing her, taking care of her, hearing the word glioblastoma for the first time, and my mom, who was young and healthy and like on a horse the day before, then suddenly is like different, right? It's horrible. And I spent 15 years, had 4 children. I was at my mom's funeral when I was pregnant with my oldest.
Mhm.
I lived in terror of cancer. I was worried I would get it. I was more worried with each kid. I would watch them sleep at night. I lived with this anxiety that was consuming, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know I had anxiety, right? I can look back now and be like, holy cow, I wish I could redo that, but we don't get to do that. And then when I was diagnosed, it was like taken away. It was all gone. I felt like, okay, this is it. This is my story. This is what I'm supposed to do. I live every day. I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I get to live here. I get to live. I get to go work out. I have this I get to mindset about everything that I didn't have before.
Hey, everybody, welcome to a brand new season of the Gameonglio podcast. We are in season 6, which is kind of crazy to even think about that we've gotten this far. When you asked me, if you had asked me in 2021 where I would be 5 years later, I would not expect to be here, still hosting gameonglio, expanding our company, working with the amazing biotechs that we're working with. The journey has truly been, as hard as it is, it's also been really rewarding. And so I can't believe we're already here. Ahead of our guest for this episode to kick off season 6, we are in Brain Cancer Awareness Month. The reason I always have to show, to bring a spotlight to Brain Cancer Awareness Month, because it's an important awareness campaign. May is always Brain Cancer Awareness Month. July is always Glioblastoma Awareness Day. And I will never stop talking about awareness around this initiative and the great work that's being done. We have roughly 25 to 30,000 people just in the United States that are diagnosed every single year with glioblastoma or some form of brain cancer. That's a big number. That is not a number to take lightly. And as we reflect on that and think about that, a lot of cases that I have seen are really young individuals, 29, 35, 40, 44, 50. So many people that I have met in the last few years that have been diagnosed that are so young. And so it's really vital. It's really important that we continue putting a spotlight on this campaign, on the awareness of brain cancer. Now, there are multiple different kinds of brain cancer. It is not just glioblastoma. That happens to be the most aggressive form of brain cancer, which many of you know. But there are many other types of gliomas, brain cancer, brain tumors that are benign, all of which can wreak havoc on one's life. So here at gameonglio, we really support the tremendous work that so many are doing in and around our communities nationally, globally, to fight this devastating disease. I mean, remember, the number I gave you a little while ago, that's just for the US. We're not taking into account every other country around the globe that is battling brain cancer as well. I would like to talk a little bit about, we have some great companies that are partnering with us, not just for gameonglio, but for our company, Right Life Media. And I would love to draw some attention to some of the work that they're doing, because they have clinical trials going on right now. First and foremost is one of our premier sponsors, GammaTile, GT Medical Technologies. They're a company that's so focused on improving the lives of patients with brain tumors. And they have a number of clinical trials currently recruiting, including their Rhodes clinical trial and their recurrent brain Mets trial. You can learn all about this on their brand new website that they've launched this past year, which is so interactive, and there's a ton of patient resource information. It's gamatile.com. So I urge everybody to go take a look, get educated, find out if there's a trial, if you're looking at trials, if there's a trial that might be right for you. We also have Cortana Pharmaceuticals, which is a biotech company, and it's a pharmaceutical company that's working with us currently. They were founded on the sole mission to develop the first truly targeted therapies for treatment of the most aggressive types of brain cancers in adults and children. The company's drug development program is based on the pioneering research of Dr. Santosh Kasari, and they're initiating a phase 1 trial in Australia this summer. So right now, starting soon, they're starting their phase 1 trial, and it'll be a monotherapy in adult recurrent GBM patients. The hope and Cortana's plan is to expand the phase 1 trial to newly diagnosed glioblastoma and to pediatric patients with recurrent medulloblastoma in the near future. They're not only a partner of gameonglio, they're a partner of Right Life Media, so you can find a lot of information about them on our website, on our social media platform, or you can visit cortanapharma.com. And one of our new partners who is going to be joining us later this season on gameonglio is Alpheus Medical. They are currently recruiting patients for their phase 2B trial. They're developing a non-invasive therapy that uses tumor accumulating drug together in partnership with a low-intensity ultrasound therapy to create localized activity inside the brain. It's pretty cool. The goal is to treat the tumor without exposing the rest of the body to high drug levels. Treatment is delivered in an outpatient setting while patients are awake, and it's designed to be repeatable. It's a really fascinating trial. They're currently in recruitment phase right now. It's phase 2B, so they've already gone through a few phases of this trial. I highly recommend learning more and seeing if you're a good candidate for this particular trial. You can go to braincancertrial.com because that's where they are currently recruiting patients. And again, you're going to hear more from them on my social media platform. We're going to do an Instagram Live with them soon. We're also going to have them on gameonglio as a guest. So you will be hearing more from them about their technology coming up. As we get into this next episode, I am really looking forward to introducing our next guest who I've gotten to know. Her name is Rebecca Devine, or the Brainy Blonde, as many of you know her on social media. And she's going to be joining us to talk about her own journey with glioblastoma as an 8-year survivor. So it's an episode you're not going to want to miss. It's a great way to kick off our next season and to kick off Brain Cancer Awareness Month. So stay tuned. We will be right back after a quick message from one of our sponsors.
GT MedTech and Gamatile Therapy are a premier sponsor of this season of the gameonglio podcast. Learn more at gamatile.com. Cortana Pharma is a premier sponsor of the gameonglio podcast, developing highly targeted therapies for brain cancer. Learn more at cortanapharma.com. This episode is sponsored by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, healthcare that's a better fit for your life right now. Learn more at highmark.com. This episode is sponsored by Alpheus Medical, advancing a new approach in the battle against glioblastoma. Learn more at alpheusmedical.com. This episode is supported by Tactical Therapeutics, overcoming resistance in malignant brain cancer. Learn more at tacticaltherapeutics.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As I said before we went to break, I have an amazing guest with me today that I've been learning a lot about and getting to know over the course of the last couple of years. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's, I don't even know what to say. I kind of bow my head to her because she's just been such a fierce advocate in the fight against brain cancer. With me right now is Rebecca Devine, aka the Brainy Blonde, for those of you who follow her on social media. She is a brain cancer advocate, a fierce warrior, and an 8-year survivor of glioblastoma who also lost her mom to glioblastoma, something I did not know, which really took me back. Rebecca knows the power of hope when coupled with aligned action. Through her podcast, social media platforms, and one-on-one coaching, Rebecca shares what she believes to be the most powerful tools against glioblastoma: food, fitness, mindset, and precision medicine, which I love that you added that in because my company does a lot of work with clinical research trials and we talk heavily about precision medicine. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for being with us in this Brain Cancer Awareness Month.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be on the podcast with you and talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to lead with you are living with brain cancer. You are living with glioblastoma. And I can't stress that enough. You've been living with this for 8 years, which is just unheard of. And so what do you contribute to your health and wellness living with an aggressive cancer like this? I mean, the journey is different for everybody, but what do you think has really helped you navigate this?
Yeah. Well, you said it in the intro. I mean, I really do say it's a four-pronged approach: food, fitness, mindset, and medicine. And I can't emphasize the medicine part enough because I think because there is no silver bullet, you get a diagnosis like this and the prognosis is dire. It's a scary thing. And there is no silver bullet. There is no for sure way to treat this cancer yet. Um,
Mm.
so we have to be our own advocates and we have to really keep pushing and pushing for better and better care. And I definitely believe in leaning into that while also doing the things that you can do to feel empowered in your own health journey, which is
Mm.
what you put in your body, what you do with your body, and how you feel every day. I think that for me, I did a cancer vaccine in Germany, and I contribute my success in being 8 years NED, no evidence of disease,
Mm.
no recurrence. I contribute a lot of that to the vaccine that I get in Germany and to my hero, Saskia.
So let's talk about that a little bit because I wasn't aware of that either. And Germany has been coming out with some really amazing research and science for brain cancer. When did you do the vaccine and do you have to get like boosters every so often? So can you just kind of talk about that a little bit because I'd love to learn
Sure.
more.
I think it's really important first to say that there are a couple of different things in Germany going on. There's 2 that are really, well known in the GBM community, the IOZK and the one that's known as CGAT. I got the CGAT vaccine. It's a neoantigen vaccine, and I started the process with them immediately after the 30-day standard of care. Back then in 2018, it took a long time to make the peptides that are part of the vaccine. So luckily, they're moving a little bit faster now. They have a more robust team. It's still a small clinic, but it's something that takes a while to create. And in that time, you're in a little bit of limbo, waiting and not able to do a whole lot. So I feel like, if you're a person who's looking to do something kind of outside the box like I did, the earlier you start researching, the better. So I just want to kind of put that out there. We can talk about it more. But I did what's considered the CGAT vaccine. It's pretty famous in the GBM world. And it requires traveling to Germany monthly. The first time you go, you get 4 vaccines over 10 days. And then every time after that, it's a single vaccine. I know in the world that we live in today, vaccine is a controversial topic, which makes me sick to my stomach. It's really, really dangerous and really sad to think that science is being looked through a lens of politics because it is the best hope we have for cancer to be cured. And
Mm.
there's a lot of treatments. We'll talk about those too, but curing cancer, the only way to do that, I think, is prevention. Um,
Yeah.
so the vaccine that I get and still get, it was monthly initially. They do something called immune monitoring where they test your blood to see if you're creating T cells. Your immune system now responds. It sees the cancer as the enemy and responds appropriately like it does to any other thing that you get in your body. Our immune systems are so amazing. So initially it was every month I would fly back, I would get a shot, I would leave, and then, every few months they would test and make sure I was still making T cells. And then in one of the many happy accidents of my life, the pandemic came and I was afraid to leave. I had 4 little kids. And I was not gonna hop on a plane to Germany in case something happened to me over there, or I got stuck and I wasn't allowed back in the country and all these things. So I didn't go for a year and a half, which ended up being such a gift because when I did go back, and get a vaccine immediately once everything opened up and I felt safe traveling. And they did my blood draws again and tested my immune system. It still had a really good response. So that kind of showed them, hey, we can go longer because they make a
Mhm.
finite number of vaccines, 15 to 20 vaccines. So I could have used them up in 20 months, right? But because of that, we started spreading them out, spreading them out. Now I go annually and I have a couple left.
Wow. So, okay, so you were going every month up until the pandemic. Then you started spreading it out a little bit further,
Mhm.
and now you go annually. So what happens? You've got a couple more left, and then what?
Yeah. So, yeah. And then what? Exactly right. In terms of the actual vaccine for my glioblastoma, it's gone. But the reality is the way that this vaccine works is it's
Mhm.
for the specific tumor mutations in the tumor that you had. So if you were to have a recurrence, you would have to get a new vaccine made anyway because they have to use because that's the thing that's so tricky about GBM. It's not like we all have the same mutations. They are all
Yeah.
different. And even if you have a
Yep.
recurrence in the same human body in the same brain, it's going to have different mutations. So it's a starting
Right.
it over. So I will have this protection. I also, because I have an inherited mutation, like you mentioned in the intro, my mom had glioblastoma. Um, I have an inherited mutation that it used to be called the colon cancer gene. It's called Lynch syndrome. And
Yep.
knowing that now, I get a preventive vaccine for Lynch syndrome also in Germany. That's something I've added on for my specific, like if you had like the BRCA, everyone knows about, breast cancer genes, right?
Yep.
That's been in the news for
Yep.
decades. Um, it's something that you can say, hey, I'm going to go get this vaccine to prevent me from getting uh, this cancer.
Okay. So I'm going to ask this because I know I'm going to get questions regarding this after people watch this. How are you affording it? Does insurance cover a piece of this? How does the financial piece of it work? Because flying to Germany first, I mean, I don't know if they set it up now where patients don't have to come in quite as often right out of the gate, or if they still have to go in every single month, but that could be a barrier for some individuals.
Absolutely. That's so true, which is why CGAT, for instance, is coming to the US in next quarter of 2026. So that's huge. They've been
Wow.
advocating for a trial in the US forever. The barriers are the US regulations,
Yep.
not Germany trying to keep it in Germany. The reason that these two IOZK and CGAT are even functional and allowed is because German law is different with the right to try.
Right.
But because of the laws, they cannot administer it. They can't ship it. It's not allowed. It has to be under the supervision of the doctor administering these vaccines. So it's just all legal. It's all to keep people safe. It's all with good intention. So yes, how are you affording it? It's about $85,000. It's a lot of money. I'm not going to say it's not a lot of money. Um, I, for me, I fortunately because I was 40, I had a retirement account, and I was like, "What's this money for if I'm gone?" I'm gonna use it, and I did some crowdfunding, raised a little bit, and,
Mhm.
I had some support, and I was able to do it. I think it's a big amount of money, but it's not, insurmountable for a lot of people, especially if they can lean
Right.
into their community, church community, school communities, do crowdfunding. And that's it's not for profit, so it covers the cost. Medical stuff's expensive. When I get 1 dose of an infusion in the US, it costs
Mhm.
$115,000 for 1 bag and an IV. That's my whole
Yep.
treatment for 7 years, right? Not including the travel. So, I mean, it's just the way that you look at it and the w and it also depends if it works for you.
Right. And that's the thing too. So when you went through the process to find out if it was going to work for you, if you were a good candidate, what did that process look like?
Yeah, so for CGAT, they look at your gene mutations, they take your tumor tissue, they have a tumor board, and
Mhm.
they determine if you're likely to have success based on the tumor mutations that you have. So if people are like, "Oh, I was turned down by CGAT," well, the only time they turn you down, so to speak, is if they don't think this is likely to be successful, and or
Mhm.
if in the months that it takes to create the peptides, you're not likely to do very well and be able to travel. And so they want you not to put your eggs in the wrong basket, money or, your time, your valuable resources, your precious life, right? So they're going to say, nope, you need to do something else. This isn't the
Mm.
right fit for you.
Has this been used at all? Do you know if this has been used at all? Because I know a little bit about these vaccines. Um, Not quite as much as I do about the vaccine in Singapore and some of the ones that are being tested right now in Australia and here in the
Hmm.
US. Has it been used for glioblastoma patients, brain cancer patients, where it's traveled into their CNS?
Mm. I don't know for sure about CGAT with that. I don't know that many specifics
Okay.
about other patients. I know it's been used for other cancers, pancreatic cancer. So I think anytime there's a cancer involved and the clock isn't ticking too fast and they have time to make these, and then your body has time to have a response.
I think that it's so interesting that we do have all these options. And I want our listeners and our viewers to understand that there are ways. I know sometimes it is really daunting to think about the financial aspects if you can't find something I mean, honestly, there are patients that are like, I can't even get from one side of the US to the other if there's an option. And that deters a lot of patients, a lot of families from trying something because they're so worried about the financial cost, or their team, their current care team doesn't really want them to leave the confines of where they're currently at. And so they poo poo, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all these other options that could be available. And it's like spaghetti. I mean, you really don't know what's going to work, what's done until it sticks,
Yep.
and you have to be willing to try.
Yep.
Um, there are options. There is financial aid. I have said it at least 3 or 4 times on social media. There is specific financial aid for brain cancer through the government. You can apply for financial aid for brain cancer treatment. And there's a couple of foundations connected to that are offering this financial assistance. So between crowdfunding, GoFundMe pages, going on your local news and asking for help, having, a local, um, event in your community to help raise funds. It is daunting. It is a lot. It's more on your plate or those that care about you, their plate, but it's worth it if it gives you results like this. And
Yeah.
it's just one piece of the puzzle, but you know, there are options, and I don't want people to close the door on thinking outside the box.
Exactly. I think that is one of the key things that I try to do besides just promoting hope, but it's also lighting the fire, right? I mean, you can have a medical professional tell you, you know, your diagnosis and your prognosis, and that can feel really hard. And for me, I like to think of the miracles in my life, and sometimes people roll their eyes and think that they're crazy. But like the fact that my mom had glioblastoma 15 years before me, when I went into the hospital, and often so many of us go in an emergency situation, seizure,
Mhm.
car accident, all sudden numbness, is it a stroke? I mean, it's usually a big event that happens that drives you,
Right,
maybe severe headaches, but it usually gets to the point where it's pretty severe. You go into the hospital and you don't come out until after you've had brain surgery. And then you don't know you
right.
had glioblastoma until after they've done the brain surgery and tested it. So
Yep.
you think about that your life is normal. I'm leaving a yoga class feeling like, whew, I did not have enough water in that class. I'm a little dehydrated. Next thing you know, I'm unconscious, crashed into a tree, and I'm in the emergency room, right? Like,
Mhm.
healthiest person, nobody could believe it. And this happened. If I had never heard the term glioblastoma before, I don't know what I would have done. I've always deferred to the health experts. They're so much smarter than me. Listen to what they say. But when that guy walked into the room after, all the steps, the surgery, all the things, and said, you have 12 to 15 months, I was like, heck
Mhm.
no, I don't. In my mind, I was like, no. Also, when they said, this is what's going to happen next, this is our protocol, this is what we're going to do. And it was the exact same protocol that they had offered my mom 15 years before that they said isn't gonna work. It did not work, and that was what they
Right.
offered me. I already had that fire, right? I already felt like, "Okay, I'm gonna do something different. I don't know what, but I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna use my tools that I've always used,
Yep.
food, fitness, mindset, and I'm gonna and thank God, amazing friends, amazing family supporting me, went to work researching. We have the internet now. We didn't have that back when my mom was diagnosed, not the way we do now. And people went to work. What's out there, you know? And it took me on a
Yep.
journey. I saw 6 neuro-oncologists. I went to Duke University Hospital. That's where after I pushed and advocated and pushed, and they kept saying, "Wait for recurrence, wait for recurrence." And I was like, "I'm not waiting for recurrence. I'm
Absolutely
gonna go
not.
do something."
Yeah.
So either you help
Yeah.
me or you don't. I'm doing something. And they said, "Okay, well, there's this
Yep.
place in Germany." And thank God they did, because for me, that worked. I think you have to be your own advocate, which stinks because you just had brain
Yeah.
surgery. You have to
Yeah.
be brave, and you also
Yeah.
have to believe in what
Mm.
you're doing. If you're a faithful person who prays about it, if you're a person who meditates, I trusted my gut. I knew when I talked to Dr. Saskia Biskup, this is it. This is the only thing that might be a cure, that might get rid of this thing and let me live a normal life. I'm not saying I knew it was going to work. I'm just saying it sounded possible. Just like a little drop of possible when somebody gives you your expiration date essentially is everything. So if I could just spread that to people, like you are not you are not your diagnosis. You're so much more than that. And your prognosis is not your fate. It's not your destiny. It's not your expiration date. Now you have to just step in and be ready, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important too. And actually I may use what you just said as the title for this, a little drop of possible, because I love that. That's exactly what this is. And it it lights a fire underneath of me that you had doctors telling you, wait for recurrence, wait for no, why do we wait for recurrence?
Yep.
We don't need to get there. We don't
Yep.
need our body to get there. We've already had significant trauma done to the brain because of all of this. Recurrence is not going to put us in a better place at all. There might be trials available in recurrence that aren't. And I think that's why a lot of doctors and oncologists push for that, because there's more trials available for patients with recurrence. But by the time you've gotten there, it's almost always too late anyway. So the biggest thing that we have said over and over and over again is we need to bridge the gap of communication between what's going on in the scientific and trial world, between the oncologist's office and the patient population, because the oncologists, the neurosurgeons, they're the front line of defense. If we can get them to start understanding that you need to have a proactive plan in place before you even do the surgery, because that is going to give people their absolute best shot.
Yep.
And if they know that and are willing to think that way, then, and the patient is doing their part,
Yeah.
it's a win-win situation.
It is, it is. I think there's a little bit of conflict of interest because the
Yes.
hospitals that have the best success, that know the most about this thing, also have a vested interest in the trials they have at their site, right? I
Yeah.
get it.
Yes.
This is expensive stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theorist about it. I don't think anyone has bad intentions. It's just a tricky thing to be in where I really think, to your point, that they need to say these are all the things that are out there. This is the thing that
Yes.
because of your specific situation, your age, where your tumor was, if it was operable or not, methylation status, all the things, this looks like a good fit. These 3 things look like a good fit. This looks like a little bit of a shot in the dark, but some people are having huge success. Spend the time, tell the family what it is, tell the
Yep.
patient what it is, and then whatever they decide, you have to support
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
And on the flip side, if you're the patient and you're not getting that vibe, go find somebody else. This is your one life, and I know that's harder for people in rural areas. I know that there's money that stands in the way. I'm not saying that without knowing that, but my job is to tell you the information and then you do with it with what you will, but
Yeah.
you have to push, you have to advocate, and you have to trust the person who's your head coach, as they say. If you don't, you're already starting on the wrong path. I hate that, when you're in conflict, you're hiding things from your neuro-oncologist, you're doing things,
Mhm.
then you're getting online and you're ordering all kinds of supplements, and then you're doing this, and then you're doing that, and all the influencers are getting into your brain or your brain into your mind, and And you're already vulnerable. You're terrified. You just had brain surgery. I mean, it's a dangerous space to be in without support. So I really think finding a person that you trust and who you feel like believes that you have a chance is the very
Mhm.
first important step.
So, let's roll the tape back a little bit because that's just one piece of the puzzle for you.
Mhm.
You've also really put an enormous amount of focus on nutrition. So,
Mhm.
can you tell us what that looks like for you? What kind of nutrition? Because there's just a ton. I mean, I remember when Mike was diagnosed, we did meet with a nutritionist out in California who was
Uh-huh.
working specifically with brain cancer patients. And we spent a decent amount of money, not a ton, um, and met with a functional medical practitioner and did all this extra blood work that, looks at different things that typical blood work does not. And there was so much noise in the nutrition space as far as what works and what doesn't and what's good and keto and this and that and no do this and do this. And so how did you zero in on a plan that was really good for you? What
Yeah.
was the deciding factor and how do you continue doing that nutrition? Whatever it is that you do, how do you do that with such a busy life and having 4 kids and marriage and
Yeah.
life gets busy. So how do you maintain that?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question because there's a lot of noise in the nutrition space and it's ever evolving. So I'm always open minded to what I did and might not be what science supports now. When I started this in 2018, I firmly, firmly believed in the ketogenic diet, keto for cancer. I read books, I did research, there's studies. And even some of the top experts in the world who I now have the fortune of knowing are like, I think that's probably what kept you alive during that 11-month time period between when you started the process with CGOT and I opted out of 523 chemo, which is another thing that I personally decided to do. So I wasn't getting any treatment
Mhm.
at all. I was getting nothing and it didn't come back. And so it's really hard to know what else could have done it besides the other 3 pieces of the puzzle, the non-medicine parts, right? The food, fitness, mindset. And they do all kind of tie in together, but I think here the mindset and the food piece are so intertwined because you if you're a person who does research and reads studies, if you're a person who however you watch a film or a documentary and you have this anecdotal story of a success. Whatever it is that leads you to the diet that you think is going to be it, hopefully it's
Mhm.
backed by science, not just,
Right,
um,
right.
but you gotta buy in all the way. You have to believe in it, and you have to feel like, "Okay, I feel empowered. This makes me feel like I'm doing something." If you're
Mhm.
forcing it on a patient in your life as a caregiver, if you're doing this begrudgingly and thinking like, "Why the heck am I doing this?" You're not gonna get a whole lot of support from your medical team on it. They're gonna tell you it's a waste of your time,
Yeah, we
most of
heard that
them.
too.
Um,
Yeah.
I do feel like it's coming around, but you're really gonna have to buy into it yourself. And when you do, and you're like, "This is gonna save my life," something like a ketogenic diet is you can't do a little bit. You have to do it all the way because if you're not in ketosis, you're
Yep,
doing more harm than good, right? So there's just
yep.
like there are some things like a plant-based diet where the more plants you put in your body, awesome. A keto diet, if you're not gonna be in ketosis, don't do
Mhm.
it. If you're not fully buying in, just don't do it's not good for you. Like, don't do that, you know? I still tried to
Right.
do a very clean ketogenic diet, vegetarian, mostly avocados, not all the things. But,
Mhm.
so that I think that's a huge part of it, is buying in, getting the support. There's so much, there's so many recipes and everything online readily available. Um, I don't do a ketogenic diet anymore. Once I found out about the colon
Okay.
cancer gene, um,
Yes.
I trust my gut, and I say literally and figuratively. I definitely trust my intuition, but I also didn't feel so good eating a keto diet. So after a while, after I had been really stable, no signs of recurrence for I think it was like 19 months. It was about when
Mhm.
it was the pandemic when I wasn't traveling anymore. I was like really like, okay, what am I going to do here? How am I going to reclaim, feel empowered? What am I going to do? And I went to a plant-based diet at that point, Mediterranean. I was fully vegan for a couple of years. I really lean into food as medicine, so I'm always learning new
Mhm.
things. As I kinda got a little bit older, I was worried about protein. I didn't like all the powders I was consuming to be vegan and get protein. So then, I talked to some Dr. William Lee is a dear friend of mine. He's a huge expert on food as medicine, a real medical doctor,
Mhm.
researcher, studies the bioactives in food, real food.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
I'm on the angiogenesis board, and they publish stuff all the time about what these foods are actually doing in your body. So a
Mhm.
lot of plant foods are actually anti-tumor foods. And then you can look at brain foods, blueberries, walnuts, things that are actually brain boosters. It's like, so incorporating all that stuff into my life. Again, I feel like you buy in. Well, let me back up. There's 2 times, right? There's the initial, like, therapeutic intervention, "I am going to save my life" moment. For me, that was, "Let's
Right.
go keto. Let's go hardcore." That wasn't something
Mhm.
I was intending to do for the rest of my life or whatever. At that point, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking right now. I'm in, like, this zone. Now I'm an 8-year survivor. I'm in surveillance, I'm in maintenance, I'm also middle-aged, trying to worry about bone density, longevity, all these other things too, right?
Yep.
Brain health.
Yep.
I don't want dementia. I don't want anything else happening in my body. So just
Mhm.
then be evolving my diet to meet those needs. I think that when you're doing an immune-based treatment, immunotherapy, you need gut health to be premium. So there's so much with that. Having a strong gut means strong immunity. I've done studies, I've with my own body. There's so much research on this. So you have to have a really healthy gut. So one, buying into it. You buy into it, you're not gonna really deviate because it's your life on the line. 2, you
Right.
don't do something that's a therapeutic intervention that's really rigorous and really strict forever because nobody wants to live like that, right? So then
Right.
you kind of say, "Okay, what can I do 80-90% of the time,
Mhm.
and live and have joy, and it makes sense in my life, and then it just becomes second nature. I don't even think about it. Like, I mean, I don't even feel like I eat that healthy, and once in a while, my husband will be like, "Nobody eats like you." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Do you think, like, normal people eat like you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just don't really think it's not like it's just so normal. I just don't even think about it." I get the things at the grocery store, I come home, the kids might do a few things different, we do a lot of bowls and whatever. It's just not that big of a deal. It's just normal.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to, and I'm glad that you stressed, 80 to 90% of the time because, we do have to, there is joy in enjoying what you eat, and
Yeah.
if you're doing it because you're buying in, but then you're begrudgingly, I remember when I was a kid and trust me, I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm like, I need to do better. I need to do like I'm perimenopausal right now. My body, I'm definitely having like gut stuff and like my body's changing.
Yep.
But when Mike died, I didn't turn to alcohol. I didn't turn to drugs. I didn't turn to anything that was unhealthy. I actually turned to sports more because I was an athlete. But the one thing that was my vice during the hardest moments, those first few years, was sweets.
Mhm.
You know, dark chocolate, chocolate, pastries, things that I hadn't really been eating a ton of
Yep.
beforehand. That just became my vice. And now it's kind of been hard to break. Like I've backed off a bit, but it's hard to break that habit. And
Yep.
when I was a kid, I remember having that issue. I had severe food allergies to so many things when I was growing up. And I got allergy tested. And back then, it was miserable doing the allergy testing.
Right.
But, I was bitter because I was told you can't eat this, you can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that. And I felt like I wanted to rebel. Don't tell me what I can and cannot eat.
Right.
I enjoy this. I'm Italian for crying out loud, like I enjoy these things and this is so there was always this struggle. And I remember when before Mike got sick, actually, we were doing a ketogenic diet because he was just dealing with some high cholesterol stuff.
Okay.
And but he super healthy. Super, super healthy. Both of us athletes, cyclists, And I had started doing it, but I'm fairly petite to start. And as we did it and got into it more and started going into ketosis, I wasn't feeling well. Like I just wasn't feeling good. And noticed that it just wasn't the right thing for me. He was doing phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
I was not. And so I backed off doing that and just really started eating cleaner, paying more attention to the ingredients that were going in my food.
Yeah.
Um, but that is, it's a struggle for so many people, whether you're sick or not, even if you're just trying to be preventative, or for women, for us, at the stage in our lives that are trying to combat against osteoporosis and
Yep.
have healthy GI tracts and colons and, fighting off perimenopause. What tips would you offer to people not only who struggle with that dynamic, but also who may not, for most of, I mean, we are fortunate enough that we can afford what we want or need to get at the store. In today's economy and the way things are going right now,
Yep.
a lot of people can't afford to eat cleaner, healthier, to add more salmon or fish. Nuts alone, walnuts, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are amazing. All you need is one every couple days
Right.
to fight off anxiety and depression. So but they're so expensive,
Yeah.
unbelievably expensive.
I think I think it's important, and I, I don't want to minimize that. We all have to buy food, right? We all have to buy food to live. So
Yeah.
the one thing is to ignore the noise of the supplements, because the supplements A might
Yes.
hurt you more than they help you. Um
Yeah.
and if you're going to do it with a nutrition expert. You know some, I know some, reach out, okay? I'm not saying that
Yep.
they don't work, but I'm saying you can get overwhelmed with thinking I need to do everything from collagen peptides to like some people have a lineup of about 16 different bottles on their counter. If you're in a position where it's hard for you to afford your grocery bills, let's not do all of that. Or let's spend a couple $100 with an expert to help you realize, okay, I only need 2 of these, because in the end you're going to save a ton of money. So I think that's one thing, because if you it either can hurt you if you're still in treatment, or you're honestly just peeing it out if you don't need it, right? So you're literally peeing away
Right.
your money. Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of things with the groceries, keto aside, a healthy diet, beans are cheap. Beans are about the
Yep.
healthiest thing you can eat, okay? Beans are
Yep.
not expensive. Organic fruits and vegetables, are they better for you? Yeah. Do you have to buy them? I don't always buy organic fruits and vegetables. I try to watch the Dirty Dozen, but I own my own business. I have 4 kids, and our business goes up and down and up and down. And the months where it's
Yep.
not good, I am not going to Whole Foods and buying organic strawberries. I'm going to the discount grocery store or the warehouse and getting the best I can get right then, because there is a bigger picture of life. If I were in that
Yep.
first year after my diagnosis, I probably, would have budgeted it a little bit
Figured
differently.
it
But
out.
living normal life, yeah, I just there we definitely have a budget. I've spent a ton of money on my health. I don't have reserves anymore, right? Like those are depleted, and I'm middle aged. So I am very mindful about that. But eating healthy, you stop buying things in a package. Like that saves you a ton of money right there. Fruits,
Hmm.
vegetables, rice, beans, quinoa, like back to basic potatoes,
Hmm.
real food. It's takes a
Yep.
little bit longer, but it doesn't even, I do sheet pan dinners constantly. We do bowls constantly, so that it's like, okay, maybe I'll make some rice and some quinoa, vegetables, because, some people only like the orange peppers, and some people, so then they can assemble their own little bowl. If they're doing ground beef, maybe I'll do ground turkey, or maybe I'll do tofu, and then everyone can assemble their own thing. It's I just don't I don't know. I'm not minimizing that, for some people that's a lot, but I think compared to
Hmm.
the things people are spending their money on, it's a lot more, to do the
Yeah.
supplements and things where you can get a lot of benefit just from the actual foods.
I think that's a really good point. I think it's a good tip to highlight. I do think that supplements get more credit than they're due, than they should have. And if you take a look at what's in your pantry and what's in your medicine cabinet versus what's in your fridge and what you
Yep,
have stocked up for clean, fresh foods, you probably could add a good 300 or 400 bucks every month to your grocery account
yep,
instead of, to your supplement account. Supplements are not cheap. Protein powders are not
yep,
cheap. Collagen
yep,
powders, there are a couple that are amazing that work really well during perimenopause that are backed by science.
yep.
those aren't cheap, but they last you 3, 4, 5 months.
Right, and I'm not
Where
poo-pooing
some of the
any of
ones
those
that
things in
are
general. You know, I'm just saying
yeah,
that those are expensive, and again, like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't work for any of these places, I'm just sharing what worked for me, but, like, Doctor William Lee's
exactly.
images that he puts up, like, these foods are anti-tumor foods, these foods are brain-boosting foods. They are foods you are walking down the aisle and getting in your grocery store. It's
Yep,
not super fancy. It's you don't have to go to, like I said, buy things organic or at the fancy grocery store. And supplements, again, I think it's worth going to someone certified to look at your blood work, do like my friend
yep.
Patrice Surley does her fancy poop test and checks to see what's going on. If you have
Yep,
parasites, if you have bacteria, then some of these things that people are buying and using are absolutely appropriate and should be considered. If you don't, you're either like you're taxing your body's, trying to get this stuff out of you that it doesn't need while it's battling
yep,
cancer, or you're just like
yep.
I said, getting rid of it. Your body's getting rid of it and you're just throwing money out the window.
Right, because it's not benefiting you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys have a busy life. I mean, you guys have a lot going on. Um, you also have 4 kids. And throughout this whole process, you've gotten to this point where you are now 8 years out. And
Mhm.
um, like, we talked about at the top of the show, you have a couple of vaccines left. There's going to be some talk and discussion over next steps and where do we go
Yep.
from here and what we're going to do next. How do you maintain open communication with your kids, with your husband? What does conversation look like around this journey for you? Because it is
Yeah.
lifelong.
Absolutely. I think, I love to say when you know better, you do better because we didn't do it right at first. My husband now is not my kid's dad. My kid's dad lives walking distance away and he always has, and we figure that out really well. But what didn't happen early on, which we didn't do very well, was how we told the kids. Because we were in 2 different households, he had the kids for the initial period, and I would get one at
Mhm.
a time. I couldn't handle a lot of noise, and it was such a blessing to have, like, a kid for 2 hours and then have a nap and then have one of the other because I with 4, right? And to have that
Yeah.
time with them, but between the back and forth and the not knowing, things fell through the cracks, and when you have kids who are online and they aren't told, they start doing their own research, right? And I didn't find out until a little bit later when I was kind of out of the crisis part of things, what they knew and what they were told, and I really wish we had done that better, but we can't, so now they live in this world where they're all following me on Instagram, and I talk about brain cancer every time I post. It's just very much part of who I am. So
Mhm.
it's not something we talk about every day, nor is it something that we really I mean, I always think about it, but there's something that's just kinda takes away the fear when it's just not the elephant in the room. It's just, you
Right.
know, conversation. And I don't know, I feel like I have so many different tools and different options. I always have hope, and I also am I hate to say it, but I'm so comfortable with if this is my journey and I got these 8 years and that was the end, it was still everything that I did was amazing, and I don't ever wanna leave my children, and I know they wouldn't wanna lose me, but, like, I'm so glad I lived this out loud and that it's just we can't get rid of the diagnosis, but we can just normalize it. I mean, people have stuff, and I love that we have very open conversations now in our family kind of about everything, and yeah, I just listen to what they need from me, and I'm just really frank about what's going on.
I love that. I think that communication it's the hardest thing whether you've got a diagnosis or not. It's
Yeah,
literally just the biggest obstacle for so many people. And Mike and I were very fortunate in the fact that we communicated very well with each other. We could give each other looks and know exactly what each other was saying without saying a
right.
word. And so we were on the same page and in lockstep throughout his entire diagnosis. But I've learned, and I've seen and through meeting other people and, navigating the journey that I'm currently on now that communication is just just not how this world works. I mean, people really struggle to be open, to be honest, to not be afraid of
Mhm.
what they're thinking or feeling, to not be afraid to ask questions, to not be afraid to be vulnerable. And, you and I have both gotten to a place where we've put a lot of ourselves out there for public consumption. So,
Yes, we have.
I think we've kind of we've kind of just gotten used to like that this is the norm, but for a lot
Yep.
of people it's such a struggle,
Yeah.
and it's sad. It is sad because I do think that when you can be open, when you can communicate, man, it just makes everything better. It just,
Yeah.
when you can find a healthy way, and let's preface that it's got to be a healthy way to communicate, um, you know, whether it's family, friends, whoever, with no judgment and just being able to be present in whatever it is that's going on that needs to be said, everything shifts
Yeah.
mentally, physically. It gives you a shift emotionally. It's healthier.
It is. It's so much
And it
better.
adds to that mindset that you've talked about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. It makes everything so much better. I feel like so many times people can get stuck.
Yeah.
And if you can really just like let your guard down, hear what the other person is saying, take that in without immediately being defensive, or emotionally responding, and just really absorb it, we really can, come to an understanding. We might not always come to an agreement, but being able to
Mhm.
understand each other, whether it be teenage kids and me, husband and me, or yeah, in like a broader world. I mean, I like to think when we come down to it, most of our hearts really want the same thing. We're just kind of, we just have to get past those like barriers that we put up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've talked about food. We've talked about original stages of diagnosis and kind of steps
Hmm.
you've taken, your pillars that you really live by. I would love to talk about your workout routine and how fitness plays into that. How often you work out, what does it look like? What are some of your favorite workout routines?
Hmm.
Um, you know, does athletics play a piece? Do you do anything that's any mindfulness type of exercises? I'm just very curious what that looks like for you.
Yeah, and that's something that's evolving for me, and I'm glad you asked about that. I strongly believe in fitness and its relationship with cancer prevention, cancer stopping. I mean, one of my favorite things is myokines, right? That they're produced when you exercise. They're called hope molecules because
Yes.
they actually inhibit tumor growth, right? And cancer
Yeah.
proliferation. So I just think that just like gives me goosebumps every time I hear it. Um and nothing makes you feel better than the endorphins, right? When I was first diagnosed, I mean, I was running marathons and half marathons. I was an avid runner.
Hmm.
And then afterwards, and I'd started integrating some yoga. And then afterwards, just for a while, I just didn't want to run and things had shifted. And just found myself falling in love with this yoga that I do. It's called Yoga Sculpt. It's heated with weights and hit cardio, and it's super intense. And I do that every day. And it's just like hits those endorphins that my body craves. But I'm also just again, I'm the age that I am, I'm concerned about bone density. I'm concerned
Yeah.
about muscle growth. And I know that you can't do the same thing and expect different results. And I've been doing the same thing now for 12 years, probably doing this class every day that I do that I love. And I don't want to stop, but I've added in heavy lifting. When the weather's, I live in Minnesota in the US, so it's icy out. So I'm not doing runs, I'm doing walks. Yeah, I'm not
I
doing it, but I try
I
to do
feel your pain.
sprints. Yes, exactly. I'm like, okay, some days I don't even I'm like looking out at the snow, like with a sneer. Yeah, so I'm still getting out and walking when I can. Sometimes I'm such a grandma, but I'll bring one of my kiddos or meet a girlfriend and we'll mall walk when it's like -10 because I'm like, I need to move my body. I need to do something and I can't take it. But yeah, I it's evolved, but I just think for I firmly believe that you have to find something that it's kinda like the food, like, you have to find something that works for you. You can't do somebody else's workout and do it begrudgingly. If it's
Yeah.
I have to work out today, you're not gonna do it. If it's especially if you have other limitations going on and you're tired because you're in treatment or because maybe you have some numbness or you have some different things in your body after brain surgery, like, if you're just miserable doing it, you're not gonna do it. So
Yeah.
whatever it is, you need to find something that, resonates with you, that you can fall in love with, that you can continue to do, whether you do it every
Mhm.
day or, you need to move your body every day, in my opinion. But, whatever
Yeah.
you do, you really have to love it and it has to work for you.
And I like that you change up. I mean, it's okay to stick with something that you really like, but throw a few things in there, a few new things in there, And for me personally, I get bored working out at home by myself. I have
Yes.
weights and stuff that I will do occasionally, but I just get bored. I like being held accountable. So I have a personal trainer that works with me only 1 day a week, but he does heavy weights and a lot of core work, and it holds me accountable. And then I feel like, okay, I got to do at least 3 other days this week because I know I see him again next week. And
Yeah.
so it kind of holds me accountable. And for me, I love walking. I love walking, and it's not heavy lifting, but it's that cardio piece, and it's being connected to
Mhm.
nature, being out in nature. There's something really soothing about it for me. And even in the
Yes.
winter, I will not go out when it's below zero, but I will. If it's 20 to 25 degrees, I will go out for a walk. So,
Right?
yeah, just changing it
Yeah.
up or adding new things to the routine once in a while, adding in for me, sports is really cathartic, and that gets the endorphins going for me. I love that
Yes.
competition, and I love the camaraderie in the community and having something to go out to do. So yeah, I kind of like that idea of switching it up once in a while, adding something else into
Yes.
the mix.
Exactly, and I don't think
Yeah.
I think you can't underscore enough what you just said about accountability partners and community. I agree.
Yeah.
We have a gym that we like because we have a home remodeling business, and we put like a little home gym in the basement because we can do that. Um, and I find myself kind of like I'm gonna do this every day, and I'll do it and then I'm just like I don't wanna do it by myself. So, I end up going back to the studio and I end up or trying to meet a
Yeah.
friend, and it's easier. And before I, got diagnosed, I had a running group. We met at 5:20 every morning. I don't care if it was -10, we'd wear our layers and we would run our 6 to 10 miles and that was just like when someone's counting on me, I'm gonna show up, and it's kinda social too. I don't get out much anymore. So sometimes going to the yoga studio is my social for the
Yep.
day, so that is a huge piece of it, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel you are living your best life currently right
Mhm.
now? And what is your hope for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
And that's a
Oh, that
weighted question,
question.
but it's an
No, that's
important one.
okay. Um, I say cancer saved my life. I 100% believe that. When my mom got diagnosed, and you know this because of your husband, Mike, like, it was the worst, 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 worst time of my life. Losing her, taking care of her, hearing the word glioblastoma for the first time, and my mom, who was young and healthy and, like, on a horse the day before, then suddenly is, like, different, right? It's
Mhm.
horrible. And I spent 15 years, had 4 children. I was at my mom's funeral when I was pregnant with my oldest.
Mm.
I lived in terror of cancer. I was worried I would get it. I was more worried with each kid. I would watch them sleep at night. I lived with this anxiety that was consuming, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know I had anxiety, right? I can look back now and be like, "Holy cow, I wish I could redo that," but we don't get to do that. Um, and then when I was diagnosed, it was, like, taken away. It was all gone. I felt like, "Ah, okay, okay, this is it. This is my story. This is what I'm supposed to do." I didn't know what it was gonna look like. I still don't know what it's gonna look like. There are no guarantees of future for any of us, much less somebody with a
Yeah.
terminal diagnosis. But I live every day I wake up and I'm like, "Oh my god, I get to live here. I get to live I get to go work out. I have this I get to mindset about everything that I didn't have before." So, that is the gift that cancer has been for me, getting to do this out loud and connect with people who are struggling and help them find some hope, help them find resources, connect on a new path. Just gives me a purpose I just never like, it just fills this hole that I didn't even know I had. So, yeah, I live life so much differently than I used to. I feel like I have a totally different personality. I just yeah, I feel completely different and grateful. There's definitely, like a correlation between gratitude and, um, joy and hope that all kind of interconnect. And I think of hope as an action verb, right? Just like love. It's not something that happens to you. It's something you choose every day. You choose to love your partner of 20 years every day. You choose to get out and do these things every day. You choose to stay hopeful. It doesn't make sense. This is my correlation. There's no such thing as bravery without fear. If there's no fear, you're not being brave, you're just doing the thing. Same thing with hope.
Right.
If everything's perfect in your life, there's no point in hope, right? So, you choose it and choose it and choose it every day. And I just think for everyone out there who's facing this, um, there are new things on the horizon. Things are coming down the pipe. It is snowballing. I mean, not from my mom to me, it felt pretty stagnant, but
Yeah.
from me 8 years ago to me now, it's so exciting. So whatever you can do to keep yourself healthy, to keep being brave and trying new things, it's coming. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a lot of, like, real promise in the medical world for things that are gonna be changing really soon. I just interviewed, my dear friends from Alpheus last night. If people don't know about
Yeah.
sounodynamic therapy, that is I mean, they're opening, I think, like, 20 locations. This is for newly diagnosed now. They already did the recurrent trial. Once they get through
Yep.
this trial and it is filling up so quickly,
And
the
this is a
faster it fills
phase
up.
2B.
This is a phase
Yes, they're
2B,
actually
exactly.
yeah, we're actually working with
Yeah.
them as well.
Oh,
So,
good,
I
yeah, so
I just had a
Jeremy
meeting
is
with
my
them.
best friend's husband who started
Okay.
this, company, and so it's so exciting because they're having such success that
Yes.
they can move on then to the next phase faster. So it's,
Yep.
we're talking a couple of years. We're not talking 20 years. We're talking a couple of years. I mean, in my mind, and this is a non-science person, but as a patient, I feel like this hopefully will replace radiation and chemo someday. That's what I'm really hoping. Maybe
Yeah.
debulking surgeries are still going to be a part of it. We're still going to have to get a diagnosis, at least a biopsy. But I'm really hoping that's the future because it doesn't do any harm. The necrosis isn't happening. These long term side effects aren't happening. And then,
Mhm.
coupled with vaccine technology, something that teaches your body to recognize and fight cancer. Eventually
These
maybe we'll
yeah.
all know what gene mutations we have that we're born with and get vaccines
Mm.
for those. I don't know if they're dire enough, but there's just it's coming. It's really coming. So there's
Yes.
a lot of reasons to be optimistic in this space.
I love that. I like the hope that's in that because you're right. Between when you were diagnosed 8 years ago, between when my husband was diagnosed 6 years ago, the amount of vaccine, immunotherapy, technology, sonodynamic therapy. I mean, there's so many things happening in the last few years that just weren't even possible, not even 5 years ago. So, there's a fire that's been lit in the rare cancer, aggressive cancer space, not just for brain cancer, but a lot of different types of aggressive rare cancers. There's this fire that's been lit, and we're seeing this push and this passion to come up with answers, to come up with information, to understand the dynamics of a tumor,
Yep.
which I don't think people were thinking about, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, that, you know, the genomics of a tumor can be different. The tumor can tell you what it needs if you study it the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that that's fascinating. And I do think that if we trust our bodies will know what to do. I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and I was telling them, I said, people don't realize that every single person on the face of this planet, every single person is born with glial cells in their brains. Every every single person is born with cancer cells that are just dormant in their bodies the day that they're born. We all have these in our system. The difference is some get ignited and go haywire and or proliferate, and with brain cancer, they turn into gliomas. Sometimes we know why, sometimes we most of the time we don't. But every single person are born, and your body knows what to do for the most part. And when it comes to these aggressive rare cancers, I love the idea that, just train the immune system to attack it, train the
Yep.
immune system of what it needs to do and what it needs to, because the reason that, most people, and that's the whole part of this. And I've said this before, when we're saying that 1 out of every 3 people will get cancer in their lifetime, that also means that 2 out of every 3 people will not get cancer in their lifetime.
Mhm.
There is always hope in this. And it comes down to our bodies and trusting our bodies. And I love that message, because I do think that we need to understand that at the end of the day, our bodies should and will tell us what to do if we let it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I love having you on. I've learned several different things from our conversation today that I'm going to be making note of when we get
Okay,
done.
good. Glad I can offer up something.
I'm
Not just chit chat.
I'm like, my brain is like sitting there saying, don't forget that. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Like, write it down when you get done. I just think that it's great tidbits, it's great pieces of information. There is hope, even in the scariest of moments. And I love that you're like, cancer decided to show me personally not to be afraid anymore. It gave me a different perspective, a different chance. I love that take.
Yeah.
I think that that's really profound. And so, and you are a walking example of what is possible. Everyone's journey is different, but this is what can be possible.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to hold on to. So where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they look you up, or, see what information you share? Let our viewers know.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So I have a podcast as well, the Brainy Blonde
Yep.
Podcast. It's released a little sporadically. I try to get them out monthly. And I did a Survivor series, which has been fun. If any listeners who are survivors want to get on, I think that has been really successful. I also try to connect the experts that have helped me with my audience, because I feel so grateful. And I sometimes find myself feeling like, why me? Why did I get to start? And getting that guilt. And then it's like, nope, this is what I can do with that. Instead of, feeling bad about it or wondering why, I can say, okay, I'm here to spread hope and spread information. So the other place, I'm pretty active on social media, on Instagram, That Brainy Blonde. And then I have my website. It's just RebeccaDevine.com.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And, for everybody who's watching or listening, Rebecca and I are connected on social media. You can always find her through my page. But on our website, when this releases, we will have links, hyperlinks to all of her stuff. We do a resource page for clinical trials as well, and we try to update it as frequently as possible. But some of the information we've talked about today, I'll make sure that I get hyperlinks for those and put those in the website as well, so that everybody can find it very easily. So thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your wisdom, your hope, your journey, your story. It always uplifts me when I have guests like you come on the show, and it sets me up for a really good day. So,
well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for doing what you do. It helps so many people, as I'm sure you know, but I just want you to hear it from me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To everybody who is watching and listening, we will be right back. This is your Healthy Minute from Highmark. Getting about 150 minutes of moderate exercise each week can do wonders for your body and mind. That breaks down to just 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. A brisk walk around the neighborhood, a bike ride, or even working in the garden all count. The key is consistency. Small, steady efforts can add up to big improvements in how you feel every day. Making healthy choices is easier when you have the right support. That's why Highmark offers the My Highmark app, your secure mobile tool for viewing your digital ID card, checking claims, and finding in-network doctors and pharmacies. It's comprehensive health management right in your pocket. Download the My Highmark app today on Apple or Google Play. You've been listening to the Gameonglio podcast, the podcast that is designed to educate, advocate, and tell the real stories of those walking the journey of brain cancers such as glioblastoma and grief and loss. Like what you hear? Share us with others. Follow us on Instagram at gameongliopodcast. Facebook at gameonglio, or visit our website or YouTube channel. You can find us anywhere podcasts are played.